back for another episode of the Capes and Tights podcast right here on capesandtights.com. This is episode 98, featuring Paul Eaton of Galactic Comics and Collectibles to talk about Free Comic Book Day coming up here on May 6th, 2023, traditionally the first Saturday in May. But before we discuss Free Comic Book Day and the wide variety of other things we talk about, check us out on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter, as well as on Spotify, Apple, and all your major podcasting platforms. Please rate, review, subscribe, all those things. 5 stars, please. But this is Paul Eaton of Galactic Comics and Collectibles in Bangor, Maine, talking Free Comic Book Day this coming May 6, 2023 at your local comic book shop. Enjoy, everybody. Welcome back, Paul. That's a perfect way to intro this. Welcome back, Paul, and just laugh.
Just there it is. Yep.
There it is. Welcome back, Paul. No, so it's been a while, actually. It actually has been a little while. And then I was like, I'm going to get you back on regularly. And then I looked at the schedule again after these few episodes that we're doing. And then it's like June or July or something like that. And I'm like, oh, I guess that didn't work out the way I thought it was going to work out. We're like, oh, maybe he'll be on every other episode or something. But we are switching a post Star Wars week back to one episode a week, not because of lack of listeners or lack of subscribers or anything like that, just because it's a lot of work. And I feel like it's just better to focus on one a week and then maybe a couple bonus episodes here and there than having to throw out 2 episodes a week. So that's also probably about part of the reason why you got pushed out further into the summer.
Better to keep that quality level, right?
Quality guests. So I don't know what I'm doing here having you on, but
yeah, I know. That's right. That's the other problem. Like with the amount of your guest list is now, you're like, why do I want to interview this moron again?
Well, we're also we're recording later on today, episode 100 with Kyle Starks. So you're on the same day as Kyle Starks. He's a pretty good comic book creator.
I feel special.
And then obviously next week we're recording episode number 101 with the one and only Scotty Young. So you're in that group of 4 episodes or so around some great creators and around. I didn't have you on episode 100 because it's anticlimactic to have Paul on episode 100. So. No,
my head would get too big too.
Yeah,
like,
exactly.
It'd be too much. You're like, God Almighty, can't tolerate this guy anymore.
We are here for Free Comic Book Day talk, comic book shop talk. What I do want to have you on, and I will discuss this off the air at some point too, is that I think sometime in June I was talking about like mid to end June to talk about like a halfway through the year comic book discussion, like halfway through the year, like how things are going in the shop and all that stuff. So we'll get to that kind of stuff. What's up with the shop?
What's up with comics? Yeah, that's cool because we always do our year in review.
Yeah.
So it'd be cool to have one in the middle here, kind of.
There's other days, and then we can look back on in January, December, or January, like, oh, this is what you said in this time, and you're like, oh, things changed. We had a great summer or a horrible summer or whatever it may be.
Right. Never know. Maybe I'll be eventually coming to you from a new location.
Yeah, that'd be nice.
We'll have it
on. I still dream of that every time. I'm like, oh, in Brewer, Maine. This is going to be extremely local for those people who don't live in this area.
I'd be like, Brewer, Maine, what the hell is that?
Brewer, Maine. There's a place. There's that hotel, a motel on Wilson Street that burned down. It was like in the middle, like on the near the.
Yeah.
I'm like, we should build something there and have your own little standalone shop right there. So you have like
that's the
2
one,
roads on either side.
Liz always wants that's her dream spot.
Yeah.
She thinks because you have the cut across the road.
Yep.
The public pool is over there, so like kids coming in, families coming in.
High school is right down the street.
Yeah, there's all kinds of attention for that area, especially if we built it as like a complex and did like some sort of like restaurant on one side and us in the other.
And then there's public transportation.
Oh, that's true. The bus line runs through there.
So there's all kinds of good things, but those people who live in California listening to this,
comic store.
Yeah, exactly.
And that would
still Bangor area.
Yeah.
Bangor
right,
area.
Bangor.
Add the word area. Bangor area's #1 comic book store.
Oh, look at that sick cup.
You like that
mug?
I've had that for
years.
Yeah,
nice. Look at that.
But we those who live in California are like, what the hell are you guys fucking talking about? But
they don't know what Bangor, Maine is, more or less Brewer, Maine. It was funny when I worked in tourism. That was actually my first job. And the amount of people that came here thinking Bangor was the capital, they're like, yeah, we're in the capital of Maine. I'm like, no, that's Augusta. But most people don't know that or even know. I mean, there's not really a whole lot in Augusta besides politicians. So there isn't much to go there for.
So Bangor is that because there's an international airport here and all that stuff too. So there's that a little bit more. But we only have less than a handful of comic book stores in the within 20 minutes of the Bangor area thing. So you've got one downtown, you got and then obviously Northeast Collectibles is doing some comic
Yep.
books and stuff like that too. And then
I think
obviously
the
Full Moose and all
BCTC store comes up
those
as
places,
one, and
yeah,
but
but they just sell comic books. They're more collectibles than they are comic books.
yeah.
But yeah, so there's only a handful of those places in the area. So there is a weird how big the city is and how many people are here and how little number of, which is beneficial to you because people will go see you instead of someone else. But it also drives business if there's multiple ones. So that's the other thing. People don't understand that having multiple
keeps our quality up. Yeah, you got to keep it up,
and you won't accidentally take advantage of people and things like that because you're the only option and so on and so forth. But so talk about business. You're going to give away free comics. This is really weird to people. No, it's a thing that I don't think a lot of people understand. A lot of industries have, like, there's not these, this is like a very, very specific, comic books have this thing that's different than a lot of other things in general with weekly releases and so on and so forth. But there's something even more different about the idea of giving away a free comp. Like, you come into my store, you don't need to do anything else but say, I want that free comic book, and you can leave. And that's you're not forcing anybody to buy anything. So it's a very unique thing to this industry. Exactly. And so that's pretty cool. I mean, the quality, a lot of people should know this. Like, you're not talking about like, we're going to give you a free, Amazing Fantasy 15. Like, this is not like,
here's your ASM 300. There you go.
This is not that kind of stuff. The quality is, they're brand new. Like, they're new pressed, like they're like out of the package from Diamond, but they're not
specifically for written, illustrated, created specifically for this day.
Or a preview of something, like where it's the first 10 pages or whatever number of pages, or a issue 0 if the series is already out, kind of thing, where they're like, oh, we're going to go back and give you a little prequel on this free day. And the idea for some of those people is to get you to buy the next thing. So
start a series up.
Red Sonja has a She-Devil with a sword number 0 coming out. Like, if you're like, oh, I'm trying to pitch Red Sonja, then you have that push to the next thing. So I'm reading all these. So there's 2 levels, and I'm guessing that's the cost to you, Paul, as a retailer. The gold and the silver, is that where the cost? Why there's gold and silver, or what? How does that? Do you know how that works?
I think the gold and silver are based off of the tier that they want the stores to push.
Okay.
So your gold tier level ones are the ones that, like, we're supposed to hardcore buy in on. And to be like a major feature story by all the gold tiers, and then your silver level is that next group of them.
It's probably something that, I mean, these publishers have to obviously put the cost forward to putting these things out. So it's also could be some sort of sponsorship on that side to help this facilitate this going on. That, like, Marvel has Spider-Man and Venom, like they do every year. There's a Spider-Man and Venom #1 free comic book day, pretty much, that they pay a little bit more into a donation or whatever into free comic book day to have this as a gold tier comic book.
Yep. It's funny because I haven't spoke with my rep from Diamond. I don't even know if I have the same rep from Diamond. I haven't talked to him in like probably going on 2 years now. But way back when I initially had our first FCBD, talking to him, that was what they were trying to push, those gold levels. And they actually used to have package deals where if you bought all the gold tier, they threw you in like an extra promotion or an extra piece. But they don't even contact me anymore about what's going on and what they can do to drive FCBD or anything. So going through, I tend to look at the titles I think are best suited for our shop and what our customer base would like and what might be new. Or I focus a lot on young adult readers and kids, because you get a lot of kids in for FCBD. So I try to think of which ones those children are going to grab the most and want. So I try to make a big spread of titles.
It's funny too, because you mentioned that before we recorded, there's another comic book shop in the area. Like, we did mention it some on the recording, but like that potentially carries a lot more, puts the onus on a wider spectrum of comic books. But we mentioned a little bit that it costs the shop still money. So there's still that commitment that you have to put in to buy these comic books. It's a minimal compared to what you actually pay for a comic book that you put on your shelf to sell on a Wednesday.
Correct.
But there is that cost there. So to you personally also is that if there's someone in there, your shop, who comes in and is like, oh, you didn't get that Met Cadet special, there's a possibility that the other shop did, and likely we did on last free comic book day. We just went to that shop, grabbed the free comic book, and left. So not to say that we wanted to screw that other shop, but it's like, well, he had it and I wanted it and they went and got it. It's not like, and so there's this option that there is other places. There's Midtown Comics. There's all these other places that do carry all of them, that as long as you spend a certain amount of money with them, you can get them. So if your local shop doesn't get all of them, including Galactic Comics, if like you don't get all of them, there's a possibility you can get them somewhere out there. They're not hard to access. I will say that in the previous years, there's been not a lot of cameos or number one or first appearances in some of these
there's some
Marvel
some
DC
hot,
ones, or not
like
DC
hot
now, but
FCBD books out there. Yeah, I don't DC hasn't put out a lot lately. I think there was maybe 3 last year, maybe different Batman titles, and then this year I think is pretty similar.
Yeah.
And they usually have like a launch point for Crisis, whatever their big annual year story arc's going to be. A lot of times they'll have a launch point one, but yeah, there isn't. DC doesn't do nearly as much.
And it's mostly independent stuff also. Like, if you think about it, there is a few Marvel voices. There's obviously the Spider-Man Venom. There's an Avengers X-Men one. But there's most of them, they're more of the independent things that are getting out there trying to get in.
Well, is the Star Wars title? No, there's an interesting question. I don't remember. The Star Wars High Republic one, is that the Dark Horse, or
that's Dark Horse? I think because it's a Star Wars High Republic and
Avatar Last Airbender.
Yeah, I think that's
that makes
Dark
sense.
Horse one. Yeah, it's Dark Horse.
I think it's got a Vader cover, if I remember correctly. It looked dope.
Yes, it does.
Yep. Yeah, and
we were it's Spidey and Friends too. Spidey and Friends. I don't know who that one is. Is that Spidey and Friends? Is not Marvel, is it? Is it Spidey and Friends? Is that the?
I think that is Marvel, but it's the young adult. Yeah, the one based around the
Disney
animated
Junior
series.
Yeah. So there's quite a few. There's like I didn't count them all. Like there's probably 30 titles total. Maybe 35, 40 titles total that are being given away on Free Comic Book Day.
I'll be right around 40. I would like eventually to get large enough that we did offer a bundle up for everyone.
Yeah.
I think that'd be great to get to that level. But we were discussing off air, as an LCS, you could spend your entire advertising budget for a year or better just on FCBD product. There's a lot of Free Comic Book Days. We got, I can show for anybody watching us, we got the Free Comic Book Day pins this year.
Yeah.
And we've been giving those out to advertise and start. And then we got some cinch bags and wristbands for the day to do an extra promotion with. And then you have all the comic titles themselves. And they also have action figures and mystery boxes and like all kinds of different things you can get. And I think as we keep growing, eventually we'll get into that level. But you're right, it's hard. Having every title would be amazing. So when that person came in looking for that more, I don't know, it is just what it is, obscure title, we would have it. But at the same time, like we've had a few that I've ordered in the past that you literally have one person that gets it. Yeah. And then I'm like looking like, why did I spend the money on this to promote when one title left? And I have all these I have 9 more copies or more sitting here.
And like you watch your back of your shop, and it's just there on a table because like you couldn't
get just stacks of them for months that we give out as you can, if somebody's looking.
And so for those who don't know, that don't know what Free Comic Book Day is, the first Saturday in May every year, traditionally every year. Obviously, the pandemic kind of screwed some stuff up. It's been going for over 20 years now. I think, 2 years ago or last year was the 20th anniversary of it?
Yeah, the big anniversary Free Comic Book Day.
Yeah, so it's been going on for a number of years. It's a way to give back to your customers for thanking them for coming in. It's a way for publishers to give back to retailers in a way that they give them some stuff that's a little bit less expensive. And it's a way to honestly drive business. It's sad to say, I don't want to sound too crash in that, like in the sense that you're looking to make money, but you're a business, obviously. So the hope is someone comes in, picks up a free comic, either is a long time returning customer because of that, because they read something that forced them into something else that's at your shop, or that day specifically, someone came in, saw the Somebody's Killing the Children Volume 1 trade on the shelf that they didn't know was out, grabbed it, picked it up, and there you go. You got a trade sale and gave away a free comic book. So it's a great thing. It's truly a comic book holiday. Like I think
it's the biggest day of the year for comic books. Like realistically, we do a lot around Halloween here for the giveaway, and then they have Halloween Fest, which is becoming a rather large piece of the comic store year. But I think FCBD is definitely the biggest day of the year for comic books, and it's like a holiday, and I think it's something that should be celebrated. And we have sales in store. We've had cosplayers in store for it. I'd like to have different things each year to make it a a festival, an all-day thing, and
Mm.
hopefully we can. That's another thing when we get into a larger location to grow into. Is what else can we bring to make it a bigger community involvement piece than simply I came to the comic store, I grabbed some free comics for the day, and I left, and I was there for 5 minutes. What
Mhm.
else can we do to make it a fun, exciting thing?
In other stores, again, size of your store, geographic location of your store, and then also just planning ahead is other stores have signings. So like you go in there and
Yeah,
specific person is sitting there signing comic books. It's not specifically to the free comic books they're giving away. It's just an artist, a local artist that decides to
yeah,
come there and sign some stuff, draw some sketches and things like that. But I've been there when you've done some signings there too. It fills up the location already. And then you
it's
add in
yeah.
all the crowd for free comic book day. And then you add in the fact that like you'd have to plan on having an artist there like today for next year's free comic book day
Yeah,
because
for
things
next
can
year,
change
yeah,
so
because
quickly.
we spoke a little bit with Bob Tackick about him
Yeah.
coming up, and he was already committed for this year, and we talked to him quite a while ago,
Yeah.
and he was already pre-committed. So yeah, you're right. I'd have to schedule someone like maybe 2 years in
Yeah.
advance
And say,
to
hey, just to let
be
you
to
know,
be at
pencil
it.
in.
Put me in for this if you got time. Absolutely. And I think it would be a great thing to keep doing and growing. But you're
Yeah.
right. The location and size of our store makes it hard. I came in for Halloween this past year, and I think there was no less than 40 or 50 people crammed in to this location, and it was unbelievable. Like I could
It's
barely
do
get
not
through
tell the
everyone.
fire code, fire
Yeah, right.
general, fire
Yeah.
chief, whatever.
I barely managed to creep my way through to the register to like
Yeah.
help start getting this going and getting everybody their stuff and conversations and getting people in and out and all that. Yeah, it's crazy. It's nuts.
So,
Um,
so your side of your store hinders that, but like that doesn't. But it goes throughout the entire day, and that's the thing. It's like I'll be there, obviously, at
yeah,
your shop, Galactic Comics and Collectibles in the morning, and people will come at 10 o'clock, fear of missing out. So there'll be fear
yeah.
of
We've
missing out
had
on whatever
we've
titles
had
we have
lines
there.
before. We've had lines of people outside waiting for us to open up, which I am like blown away by. It's unbelievable to see.
And then, but then it goes out throughout the day, and then there'll be some comic books left
Yeah.
over. Obviously, you order pretty good
Oh,
amounts,
for
so it's not
sure.
like it's like, and so people can come at 2 or 3 o'clock in the afternoon and peruse and see some stuff that's left over. Usually, you'll have like a stack of comic books that are you're like, I just need to get rid of these things. So
Well,
you'll
yeah. So
probably
I was
have
gonna mention we purchased 10,000 comic books in one day, and I've been going through and trying to get that stuff sorted and that stuff out. And I think I'm gonna go through and take a bunch of vintage comics that we just don't need all of that overflow of, and put them out for free comic book day. So vintage books in here, you can grab some, especially titles that aren't part of SCBD stuff. Like
Mhm.
I don't think there's a Superman one this year. Probably focusing some more of the DC side because there's a little bit less of it to offer. But yeah, we're gonna go through and put out some cool vintage books. I know one year we had the free Death of Superman, like a book that everyone thinks is worth millions of dollars, and we gave out like an entire short box full of them. Same thing with like X-Men #1, Jim Lee's X-Men. We just gave out tons of them because there's like a huge amount in a collection I bought. So same thing here.
will there be any of these on the show? Number
There
5,
might
Spider-Man
I
Gwenverse.
might be able to spare one or two of those, perhaps.
I just had to grab that, but no, it's yeah. There is that opportunity where I've gotten things like I have my Death of Superman, a Death of Superman copy because of the fact that I just was like, oh, it's just sitting there, and I had
Yeah,
another store who was doing a sale this weekend and was like had a $10 price tag on it, and I was like, someone probably paid it too. That's the thing. It's one of those
right.
still looking. I honestly have seen less out of the poly bag than in the
Yeah,
poly
they're
bag. So it's
usually
almost
always
like
still in that poly bag.
it'd probably be worth it to pull yours out of your poly bag and put it up for sale because like this is what it actually looks like. This is what the
Yeah,
book is. You can actually read it.
oh wow, I could have a reader copy too.
Spoilers,
I think I
everybody.
have a used trade of that right now. I had a used trade in the dollar bin that was beat up, and then I've got another used trade of it sitting on the shelf, the old like original release. It's like I don't remember, $5 or something. I saw it over. I was reorganized into trade paperbacks on Friday, and I was like, oh, I got a copy of that sitting here. Like,
Spoilers, everybody. Superman does not stay dead.
I wonder. What would be funny? Because as a kid, it seemed like that was a long thing. How long did that last? I wonder. From
It,
Death of Superman, and then all of the possible Supermen that came in to find the Clark coming back. Like, how long was that span? As a
it was
kid,
like
it seemed like a long time.
it was
But
like 3 months. Honestly, it
I was gonna
wasn't that
say it
long.
couldn't have been very
Yeah.
long.
No, we
Yeah.
obviously time is different as a kid, but like
Yeah.
a younger person, like it's that idea that 3 months probably felt like 3 years, but it really was only like three or
Oh, I'm
four
sure
months
because
that
it
it went
probably
through.
lasted like summer vacation or something, and that was the big excitement. Because I want to say, and of course, who knows? I could be completely off, but I want to say as a kid, I was going to the comic store to grab those books when they came out to see who could be Superman, and I remember all my friends and I talking about, which one we thought it was. Was it Steel? Was it the I can't remember the guy with the visor. He had that yellow visor
You're
on.
asking me
But
like
yeah,
I'm gonna
yeah, I know. I'm
friggin'
not. Yeah,
know.
yeah. That's not going to be any good. But we were discussing, like, was it Cyborg Superman? Like, we all
Yeah.
had our theories all on this, and we were all discussing it a lot. So it felt like it was probably during summer break. We were all talking about it. But yeah, now we're off topic to the
No, it's
death of
not
Superman.
kind of not, but like the idea that you give away other free things too, so there's like a chance for you to
Yeah,
pick up something that you might fill some back issues or whatever. So it's definitely worth
absolutely.
going to your LCS because of that. I love how I went to Previews World to look up some stuff, and they have in shops for the I Am Stan sampler April 12th. Is that when you get them? Like, you get them weeks in advance, or do you get them the week of the
Yeah,
shop?
yeah, it must. Yeah, that's about right. I would say because I just got one bundle last week,
Okay.
but it's funny because I got my first bundle in and I opened and it was a very small box and I had
Yeah.
like maybe 3 or 4 titles in it. And like way back, I think we got those pins in the cinch bags and stuff probably a month and a half or 2 months ago.
Yeah.
But I'm sitting here like, okay, this is not very many. Where's the rest of the order? It'd be nice if this was all shipped out together. So, I think they might have sent an email out about that. They were breaking it up to help reduce our shipping costs from
Yeah.
getting hit with one big shipping bill in a week. Um, yeah, they're I will say it seems like they're doing a lot of different focuses on Free Comic Book Day to help aid a comic store with
Yeah.
all of the excess expenses that it creates. But I think it's a well worth investment in your advertising budget to say, hey, we're going to do a big push for Free Comic Book Day this year.
Was there anything in this year's titles that was there a specific? I mean, I'm looking forward to like the I Am Stan book as a big Stan Lee fan, so that
Yeah,
one's gonna be pretty excited to look at. Is the I Am Stan? It's a sampler preview of the biography from 10 Speed Press. It's a graphic novel that's coming out, but like this is like a little bit of a preview to that thing. Is it Tom Scioli? I could probably butchering that name, but he's the writer and the artist of the book. I'm looking forward to that. Obviously, I'm a big Marvel fan, so looking forward to like Marvel always puts out something like Spider-Man, Venom. I don't know.
yeah,
I looked at your list quickly last time, but you actually ordered it, and I forget if that was on it. Spider-Man and
yeah,
Venom, I
that was on
usually
there.
pick up.
Yeah.
Yeah,
And I feel
and
like there
then
should be
Spidey and
more on
Friends.
this. I did a quick review. It's the website's strange to try to find your open order stuff on. It's not a very like user friendly
Yeah.
piece. But I went back through it. I'm like, this doesn't seem like everything that should be on this order. So they may have broken up the order cycle too into different
Okay.
months. Because I remember the first one we were ordering Free Comic Book Days back in December, which is like seems very far in advance to be trying to get titles and choose what you're going to bring in. So little odd there. But yeah, there's
But I think if it's the same way because I feel like I got the press release from Boom about Mech Cadets. Like in my mind, it was like, oh, that was last year's Free Comic Book Day, but it
right.
wasn't. It was like months and months and months ago, like saying, oh, they're gonna have a Free Comic Book Day special, and I'm like, and that's the reason why I kept that's the second time I mentioned them. It's not because I care about it. It's because I just know that I've gotten the press release
You
from
just
Boom,
remember getting this and thinking,
and
why it
it's
stood out in your mind.
yeah, and I'm
Yeah.
like, why is this thing? And so like it was kind of funny. I'm like, oh, I wonder what's gonna happen this year for this year's Free Comic Book Day, and not realizing that the press releases that I got were like for this year's Free Comic Book Day,
Right. It
not
came out
next
so
year's.
far in advance.
Yes.
Yeah. I think the Umbrella Academy will be an interesting
Yeah.
push and be restarting that series up. Um, I love the TV series. I had a hard time in the book. I hadn't read the book pre the TV series, and then I watched the show and like loved it. And like, oh, I've gotta grab this up. And when I was
Mhm.
reading, I'm like, how did they even get the show from this? This is
Yeah.
it's definitely. I'll tell you this: it's not the same, folks. It's not the same. If you've never read it, like,
It's yeah, it's I what's funny about when the TV series came out, I had some random comic books not even in my collection in another box in my basement that I had completely forgot that I even existed. And we were going through the basement, and this TV show was like the first season coming on, and I actually had a few keys that I was like, oh, this is pretty cool, but I don't care as much about them, so I
right.
ended up selling them on eBay. But it was just the most random things, like the only time in my life where I feel like I've just stumbled upon something that's worth money like that. Like I've always had a curated collection that I knew at some point this is gonna be worth money or whatever, but it was like holy shit, I can't believe I have some Umbrella Academy things and so on. So it was kind of
Right.
fun to
When you
have it.
first saw it, you probably had no idea what it was because there are a lot of independent prints out there,
Yeah.
and you never know when something's gonna take off. And sometimes you definitely, like you said, you feel it. You
Yeah.
read a series or you see something coming out for it, and you're like, oh, that's gonna get big. I felt like that with like Hell to Pay. Somebody's killing the children. Those ones where you're like, oh, this is gonna get picked up. This is gonna be something. But there are those other ones, like you said, don't even know what the title is. Stuff. I mean, there's those books that I still find and send you sometime where there's a long. We just did revival that
Yeah.
like 7 trade paperback history of it, and I'm like, I've never even heard of this. How
We
would this
we
go this long? Never heard of it.
we were living under a rock on that one. Let's just be
Yeah,
honest. Like
yeah,
that's just
bad.
like
Yeah,
that.
we
That to me is like one of
totally
those ones
missed
where I'm
that one.
like, because like I've actually the promotion of Local Man with Tim Seeley and Tony Fleece, it actually says from what did Tony Fleece from Stray Dogs, Tony Fleece, and Revivals, Tim Seeley is what it actually was promoted as. And I was like, okay, we were living under a rock if they're using that book as a promotion for Tim Seeley. Out of all the things that Tim Seeley's done, that's what they're picking. And I'm thinking to myself, okay, now we definitely lived under a rock on that one. And we're Scotty Young
we missed
fans,
that.
and Scotty did a cover for that. And you said you probably even have the cover. And
I
you
own
didn't
the
realize
cover.
that.
Yeah, I own the cover, and I just bought it. Like, oh, this is Scotty I need, and grabbed it in an auction somewhere, someplace, and put it in the collection. And I have no idea. In fact, I just ordered Bitter Root for the same reason. The Bitter Root trade. I'm like, I'm gonna see this because I have the Scotty Young cover, and I didn't even know what the book was about.
Yeah,
it was another one. It was in an auction, and I just snagged it. I'm like, yeah, throw that in the box here.
That's he just did a book. Dave Walker, the guy that wrote Bitterroot, just put a new book out, I believe, that I just read. Oh crap, this is gonna suck.
I was gonna say I seem to recall something indicate it was that same thing where it was like the creator of Bitterroot.
Yeah, let me look it up really quickly. So speaking of back to Umbrella Academy really quickly, they had that free comic book day coming out. It has a little bit of The Witcher in it as well. Over at Dark Horse. The editor of that of the Umbrella Academy, Dan Chobon, I'm gonna say Chobon, it's Chabon, is actually coming on the podcast. He's a senior editor of Dark Horse, coming on the podcast for episode 102. So we'll obviously talk a little bit about that as well, which will be kind of cool.
That's cool.
That will be right before Free Comic Book Day, so maybe he'll have some insight on that as well.
Nice.
Pretty cool too, pretty soon. But he did Planet. I think it's Planet of the Apes.
Oh, the new Planet of the Apes series.
The new Planet of the Apes series was done by Dave Walker, David F. Walker and Dave Watcher, who were the I believe Dave Walker was the creator of Bitterroot, which is cool. So.
And that came out last week, as far as I'm not sure when this podcast released, but last
Wednesday.
week.
So yeah, last week. It would be a week. A week ago from this the release of this episode.
From this release, cool.
It was pretty cool. I mean, anybody wants to Planet of the Apes. It was cool. It's cool to see the expansion of the movies and see more of that in a print form. Obviously, it's been 40 years, 50 years since Marvel has produced a Planet of the Apes comic book. So it was cool in that sense.
That long? We had that here once. We had Planet of the Apes #1.
74 and 75 was the years that it was at Marvel. And the thing I will say is it definitely has this like artwork style that you'd expect from a big two publisher, that I feel like I wanted to be more independent style. Does that make sense? Right. Like I wanted it to be more like, it has that, I don't know, that processed look that big two comic books have. They're not the less gritty, the less homegrown look that an independent comic book has. Not saying all of them are like that, but I'm just saying like it has that. It wants to be that, and it should be that. But it looked like it was like, okay, this is from 20th Century Studios. Like it looks like, okay, we're making this movie based thing, and I really wish it was like they had sold the rights or licensed the rights to Dark Horse or to Dynamite like they did with the other stuff, because it would have been maybe a little bit different of a quality of a book. But it's exciting. And we mentioned this before too. It's really weird to see that they kept Alien and Predator and Planet of the Apes in-house at Marvel, but it sent out Lion King or the Disney villains,
Scars,
and sent out Darkwing Duck and Gargoyles. The ones that you'd think that they'd want to keep on their own publishing.
Yeah, you would think Darkwing Duck especially would have been, and Gargoyles would have been right up Marvel's alley for like printing and promoting. Yeah, it was kind of weird they sent that to Dynamite, but go figure.
But they kept Planet of the Apes. Like, it must be something. They must know more than we know, because obviously I got it because like I said, this is kind of cool. I like this idea. I don't know if I'll probably collect it for a little while, but I don't know if I'll read everything all the time. It just, you here and there, spot read it or something like that. I
Yeah.
don't have enough time. I'm not that big of a Planet of the Apes fan.
I was gonna say I've never been that big of a Planet of the Apes fan. I don't even know if I've seen all of the Planet of the Apes movies. Like
I've seen the
I
newer
know I've
ones, but
I was gonna say I know I've seen a couple of them here or there, but yeah, I've never been that big into it. And it's funny to think that 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 book that we had is 50 years old, but then I'm like I had the realization the other day that some of my childhood toys are now 40 years old.
yeah.
So yes,
Well,
I'm
I laugh
old, and
because then you say
therefore
oh, it's 50 years ago, and I'm like, wait, Marvel's not. Wait, it's been a long like things progress in time. So yes, Marvel has been long for
yeah,
50 years.
big time. Yeah,
I mean,
yeah.
it
That
was that
wow.
mid 70s was still in the infancy of what Marvel was, but like not full
Yeah.
on infancy, but like it was a teenager at that point, really. But yeah, it was pretty good. But you got so is there anything else? I know I said Marvel for me is always a big thing. I want to see what the Marvel days things are coming out. Obviously, it's weird because a lot of the stuff that you'd want for Boom in Image and things like that aren't
Didn't
usually
have a lot.
included. Yeah, like it's like
Yeah,
the
there
stuff that
wasn't a
Boom
lot to
has
pick from in
is
it.
Rangers Academy, which is a Power Rangers book, the
Yep.
Met Cadets I mentioned. But like there's not like the stuff that you'd want. Something's killing the children, the House of Slaughters. They did House of Slaughter what last year or the year before that?
Yeah, I think so. And they did something killing the children way back, like when it was still in its early
Yeah.
issues.
Well,
Yeah, there
Enter the
was
House of Slaughter was the one 2 years ago.
okay, yes. Yep.
That was the
Oh,
preview
that's
for
what it
the House
was.
of
Yes. And it
Slaughter.
had
Yeah,
the original #1 cover but in red.
yeah,
Yep.
yeah,
Yep, that's right. And that sort of started the kickoff to the House of Slaughter series.
yeah. And so
Yep.
I'm looking forward to usually having some of that stuff, but there it wasn't like I said this year wasn't like
There wasn't a ton to
jumping
pick
out at
from
me.
for that
No.
stuff. Yeah. No, and I try to do like I said before, some of the young adult reader stuff. Captain Underpants, which is always a fun one.
Mhm.
With Dogman, we got Dogman, and there's some cool like kid reading. We did do Animal Crossing,
Mhm.
and Kirby. That's another fun like manga one for
Mhm.
kids. So yeah, I feel like a lot of the titles this year were more young adult driven, because there just wasn't a whole lot on the indie circuit side of it to bring in, which is too bad.
And here's the deal. Like I said, we talk about like a number of parents you have that come in and bring their kids, bring the kids in and get free comic book
Lots.
days, and
Yep.
then they give them an excuse to come in to go to the comic book shop as well. Like I get to go to the comic book shop today because I'm bringing little Joe and little Nancy in for comic books, and then I'm going in to buy something for myself or look at some Pokemon cards or whatever. And like I said, it's a
Yeah.
draw in and so on, which is also one of those weird things that not weird things that there is a list of these comic books. Like obviously, you can just go to freecomicbookday.com and find the entire
Yeah.
list of
It's
what's
right
going
on
to be
there.
available that day. So it's not like it's hidden, but it's not traditionally that comic book stores say this is what we're getting. So it's not traditional that you send an email out to people on your pull list day saying, okay, pull list for Wednesday, but also free comic book day. And
Yeah.
these are the free comic book days we have coming in. It's just people come in expecting to go, I wonder what's going to be there today. No one does the research. Not no one, but like
Yeah. Yeah. Generally speaking, it is it's an exciting, fun. It's like opening the present on Christmas,
yeah,
right? You walk through the door and see what's there, and see what you find for books that you want. And yeah, I mean, I remember going to FCBDs when I was younger, and I never knew what it was. You stood there and you looked at the covers, and it's
yeah,
that old choose your cover you want the most
yeah,
type deal. And yeah, I think tends to be very family driven. That's why I'd like to do when we get into a larger space. I'd like to do some more like face painting and
yeah.
different. Maybe have a cosplay contest for children and different things that keep the day going and have a focus on the kids because it's great. It's a great thing for kids to do and to show that community involvement that we have.
Well, it's the building long-term relationships with customers. There's not just this, like we talk about, like with our book club that we do with you know, we do together. Excuse me. I'm there as a member, and other things we've done in the past, whether it be with you and I as the podcast and you or just you, to bring in
Yeah.
customers and say, I'm part of the community. We're part of the community here. It's safe space for people to come, no judgment, come in here, be yourself and buy comic books or just have a conversation. I mean, there's people who come in there who don't even spend a dime, who take up 10 minutes of your time to ask you a couple questions or say they're reading this and then they leave.
Just come
And
in,
it's
chat, have fun.
yeah, and it's what it is. So having a free comic book day it's cost to you, but it's something that you can build a community that someone's going to go when someone maybe they're not a long-term customer, but they came in and said someone else asked them, hey, where's the comic book store? And they're going to say, oh, Hammond Street, Bangor, Maine, because they went there for free comic book day or something like that. So like it's a long-term, you might not see like quantifiable on your books,
Right.
be able to see
Right.
A equals B from free comic book day, but you'll know that there is for sure something in return, a return on your investment into comic book day, free comic book day.
Oh, absolutely. And I remember being a kid going to these things. So like that's where I would hope we have the longevity to continue being here, where kids coming into the shop can later on say, hey, I remember going to free comic book day, and now I'm an adult and I'm going to go to the same LCS and go there. And it's funny, we're already, I don't think of us being open for that long. It's only been we're on our 4th anniversary of having an actual storefront. But I just had a parent come in and said, hey, this was my son, and he just wanted to let you know that he's going off to Japan for culinary school. But one of the things he loved in the neighborhood was coming to your shop when he was in high school going through. And I was like, well, that's really cool that the parent wanted to share that, and that this kid had remembered coming to our shop and looking at Transformers and buying some comic books. And now he's off to Japan. But before he left, he went, hey, will you just stop by and tell him? And I'm like, I can't believe that we already have kids like our little kids in our shop are growing up.
That's amazing. That's awesome. It's true. Like I said, it's a community thing, and that's one of those things with like your Pokemon days you do in 1 o'clock in the afternoon on a Saturday here and there, where you're just like, come by and play Pokemon in our back room. It's like it could be as simple as, obviously you need to pay the bills, but there's this unquantifiable or not financially quantifiable thing about being a great person in the community. That's gonna pay you back tenfold. That's gonna pay the bills eventually. Like it makes people come in there. I don't want to throw anybody else into the bus, but it's comfortable coming into your store, where it can be uncomfortable to go into other stores. And that's the thing where it's like you're welcoming. You're just like, okay, whether you spend $3 on a Wednesday or $200 on a Wednesday, you're the exact same customer. And that's the best thing about going into what you do over at Galactic in that sense. And hopefully Free Comic Book Day builds that community even further. It's the idea that you can come in, get something for free, and not have to have there's no borders and boundaries of like, don't step behind here. I mean, obviously there is, don't open the register, but like,
we refer, please keep the safe closed. Don't.
But otherwise it's like, just pick up a Free Comic Book Day book and hold it and flip through it and so on and so forth. If you don't want it, put it back. If you do want
put it on the shelf,
look out. Want to buy something, buy something. If not, and so, are you planning sales at this point right now, or have you not thought about that yet? I mean, it's still we're still a couple weeks away.
I think we always do a focus, because we have a large focus in the shop for trade paperbacks and with our book club and with this and that. So we'll have a trade paperback sale in store for people that wanted to grab something to read and check out a new series for themselves. Something like that. And I'm sure we'll have a big backstock sale. As I mentioned, we have 10,000 backstock books to pile drive through, and that does include all of the books that we have in stock. So if people want to come in and dig through and find a cool book for themselves, maybe there's something here in the new list that inspires them to look through Spider-Man and grab. We have 3 short boxes of Spider-Man right now in stock. So we'll do a backstock sale too. And then from there, we'll see what else, if there's anything else that captures us, to just say, hey, let's do this or do that. I was thinking we might do a raffle in store. So we got some different things to do.
That's awesome. It's like I said, it's a celebration. It's a holiday. It's a big thing for that, in a sense of that. But again, customers, I don't want to take money away from Paul, but just you walk in there, grab 3 or 4 free comic books and leave, and come back at another time when it's less busy. He also doesn't care about that. Like, come back on the following Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, and say hi, and go see Garrett or you in the shop and say, hey, I was here on Free Comic Book Day. I grabbed the free comic books, but I wanted to be out of there and not be near the crowd. Cool.
Yeah.
It's not. It's
because it gets busy in here. There's no doubt. But absolutely. I mean, we're now here 6 days a week, which is fun. I mean, it's cool. I'm still trying to get certain. But yeah, it's funny how many customers don't realize that still. They're like, wait, you're open Mondays and Tuesdays? I'm like, well, I have been for a year and a half now. But you get, creature of habit. People get used to things. And
I think also I could picture it. It's nice to have a day to be closed, but I could definitely picture that one day down the road that you're open 7 days a week for people. If you have an extra person who's willing to work on Sundays and do it, even if it's like 12 to 4 or something like that, just something to have so people who have the weekends off can do it. I'm not trying to put the pressure on you, but I'm saying I can see that. There's no reason not to if you're going to make money on that day, and the stress won't be on you, kind of thing.
No, I think that's the thing. If we get into a larger location and get a little more growth in it, and we start maybe doing that, like the Pokemon hosting on Saturday. Well, who says we don't do it again on Sunday, or host another form of tabletop gaming that day for people that only have Sundays off, or they have planned Saturday and they're looking for something to do with the family on Sunday. And absolutely.
But this is a Saturday, May 6th. It's the first
May
Saturday
6th.
traditionally in May that is free comic book day. Looking through some of the things you had. So that email you sent me, it has like, it's like a very hard to read, or the message, I mean,
Yes.
those are all
That's
the
a
ones you
terrible.
got, right?
Yeah, those are the ones I have confirmation of right now. Yeah.
Okay. So I was just thinking to myself, I'm excited for the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles one. That looks like more of like a Saturday morning cartoon style TMNT book.
Yeah, which I wonder if that'll have any push from the Seth Rogen movie coming out, if they'll
Yes.
have some sort of tie into that. But I thought, TMNT is huge in the store anyways.
Yeah.
It's always big here. And if we can get more readers and more interest in Ninja Turtles, then that's
And it
great
has
for
the
us
traditional
because
logo on
our
it. The
tie
old
into Maine.
school has the old school logo on it, which is pretty cool.
Yeah.
Instead of that newer one that's on the regular one. Is Street Fighter is a newer thing coming out. There's Smurfs on that thing. I see obviously the Marvel Voices was a big thing in this past couple of years. Spidey and Friends,
absolutely.
Which is pretty cool. We have that Star Wars High Republic thing. Star Wars Celebration just happened over the weekend. Some new Star Wars comic books, movies, TV shows, all that stuff. That's obviously good to have.
We're gonna have comic book day, free comic book day May 6th, and then May the 4th be with you just before it. So,
and that's actually Star Wars week right here at the Capes and Tights podcast. So a little self-promotion here. So that's 3 episodes of a podcast that week. Okay, people, 3 episodes. There's a Monday, a Wednesday, and a Thursday episode that includes Will Sliney, who is a Star Wars artist, but also is the artist on now I'm blanking. Shoot. He's an artist. Charles Soule's book, Hell to Pay. He's the artist on Hell to Pay as well. But we also on Wednesday.
I should know, as I just had mentioned Hell to Pay. I should have been on the ball on that one.
Heather Antos, who is a former Star Wars comic book editor, but also a editor over at IDW. So she's going to be on here talking about some Star Wars stuff, probably some other stuff as well as Daniel Jose Older, who is a comic book writer, but also a author of the High Republic series of books, along with Charles Soule and Kevin Scott, and those people over on the book side of things will be on there. We also have 2 written interviews that we've done with comic book artists and creators as well, who don't speak very good English, or on a different time zone of sorts, that it was easier to do a written back and forth thing than it was to do something recording. But that's happening all that week. Other articles and things like that. May the 4th be with you is obviously a big day that week. It's also, Paul, the week of Guardians of the Galaxy Volume 3 release. That's happening that week on May 5th, technically, but the Friday, May 4th
through the weekend.
So 4th, 5th, and 6th. So that's a big weekend there. It's the beginning of the getting nice quality weather here in Maine, so it's a nice kickoff.
It's supposed to be beautiful this week.
Like kick your summer off really in the beginning of that week, that beginning of May. Come in on Wednesday, pick up your comic books. Maybe go see the early preview of Guardians of the Galaxy over at the movie theater on Thursday. Maybe Friday, watch it again.
Yeah, celebrate watching Star Wars again. For me, I could watch. There's some Star Wars series I haven't watched yet, including some older ones. I had started the animated Clone Wars series, and that is definitely a fun watch. And it's something that the generation of Star Wars fans that are a little younger than me grew up on and love. They passionately love that series. So that's a fun one. I could sit down and celebrate. May the 4th be with you.
Your favorite week of the year.
Then I'm just gonna hide that entire week. All of
Saturday,
the Paul hates Star Wars talk will be
Saturday. Swing by the shop, grab your free comic books at Galactic Comics and Collectibles, or at your local comic book shop. Obviously, everybody has their own. Support local. These people
support your
business.
LCS.
Yep. And then on Sunday, sit back, relax, and read your free books. Right?
That's right.
Sit back, read those on Sunday. And if you missed out, email, message, or whatever your local comic book shop, be like, is there any of these left? I missed out on this book. I really hope you have it. And then they'll obviously be able to get it to you the next week on that too. And maybe you'll get a treasure. It's harder to see on here, but maybe you'll get a treasure like this Infinity free comic book day.
Oh, baby.
There's some ones that too, and then there's one over here. This is actually a cameo appearance in this Venom in Spider-Man. So there is some things. So
that Infinity at one point was a book on my list to try to get to my PC, because I was doing all of the Thanos stuff before I just said, okay, I'm only collecting Scotty Youngs.
And you could be like an idiot like myself and miss out on a free comic book day and not grab it or not know about it, and then spend money on it later on because someone obviously charged me for that. It's also slab, so that's different. But or you can just get it free on the day and then be like, this is a badass cover. So like I said, there's hit or miss on what you get. There's quality hit or miss on these free comic book day books. Some of them are like, I'm gonna throw something out there for someone and see if it sticks. Some of them put a lot of effort. I mean, obviously everybody puts a lot of effort in. There's artists and creators that are behind these things, but some of them have unbelievable covers that should be like on a regular cover, not a free comic book day cover. And sometimes you have a nice hit there on that one. So it's one of my favorite covers. Might be one of my favorite 20 covers of all time, honestly. On that.
Whoa. Yeah, it's definitely a dope cover.
It is. And it's for a free comic, literally a free comic, Paul.
And first appearance of was it Grievous?
Now we talk about this all the time. Hold on.
Yeah.
Yes. Corvus Glaive.
There we go, Corvus Glaive. Yeah, one of the.
We literally every time we talk about this cover, we're always like, it's the first appearance of.
And I always picture him, and I can never get his name, and I know he's Proxima Midnight's husband, and all this and that, and I can never remember.
So that's the other thing is like there's sometimes the Marvel and all these, like, obviously a little less likely on the IDW and independent side of things, but in Marvel and in the past have slid in first appearances or cameos and things that you just
they snuck them here and there.
And then like 6 years later, they end up in a TV show or a movie. And you're like, what's the first appearance? Like, oh, it was in this free comic book day book that ends up in someone's bathroom.
Boy, I'll tell you what, they're hard to find after that. Yeah, your FCBD books are hard to find after that because they get gobbled up, and kids get them and they get damaged or what have you. So to find them in like I think was that 9.6 or 9.8? 9.6. Yeah, to find it in a 9.6 is not easy. And let's face it, they don't like pack these to be shipped.
No, and they're not packed correctly
because they're for us to give out. So they're
and they're not like, it's not like they go in there like, oh, this is a special card stock cover of the. I mean, they're like they're the cheap throwaway. It's a throwaway comic book. It's a comic book.
Yeah,
it's a periodical.
Definitely inexpensive paper. Yeah, inexpensive paper. They shipped them. This, like I said, I got this mini order and it was crammed into this little box on the first order that came. So.
But yeah, so check them out. Like, you got to go to your LCS and pick those up and say, hey, and ask questions. And most, if you were to message Paul and be like, what are you getting on Facebook or on Facebook, he'll let you know. It's not like he's hiding them, but nice to just go in there on the free comic book day and find out what the heck's cool. We go to freecomicbookday.com. Right? Freecomicbookday.com is put out by Previews World and the Diamond.
Check it out.
Sappy company that owns Diamond and all that stuff. They put it out there because they're the ones that like mastermind a lot of this stuff. And there's a list of the gold and the silver, and there's a list of other things that are going on those days around find your local comic book shop and get some free comic books. There's not, I don't know of many regular 100% comic book stores, not 100%, but like majority comic book stores who don't celebrate and participate in free comic book day. There is a few out there, but like you'd have to say that, like I said, if part of your main income is comic books,
why you wouldn't?
If part of your main income in a store is comic books, then most likely those people are participating in free comic book day. But just reach out to your LCS and they'll probably tell you. They'll probably have something posted up before that as well. But if you're in the greater Bangor area, go to Galactic Comics and Collectibles on Hammond Street in Bangor. Galactic Comics and Collectibles.com, Facebook, Instagram, all that shit. Find
all of it
in. Anything? I mean, I think there's bigger stuff too. We got releases coming out in August or April 12th. We've got 7 Years in Darkness dropping here pretty soon, which is Paul. What's his name's book? Joseph Schmalke's book.
What's his name?
Joseph Smolke's book. When you're listening to this episode, when you wake up in the morning before you go over to your local comic book store, I will tell you that 8 Billion Genies number 8 drops the final issue of the series of 8 Billion Genies with Charles Soule and Ryan Brown's book drops this week. Another big one for me, and I loved it, and it was really funny. And if you really want to get into something weird, is The Great British Bump Off. It is a Agatha Christie style murder mystery book that just it's a British baking show where murder happens and they have to discover why and how all this other stuff. It's a fascinating book by John Allison.
I have been roped into watching those British bake-off shows with my wife and my daughters now, and now I'm sitting there watching it and judging it with them. And yeah, those shows are fun, and this is cool. Have a murder in there. Guardians of the Galaxy number 1 drops.
Yes, Scotty cover on that one too. There's a Scotty cover on that one. But also for me, big one, Seasons Have Teeth over at Boom. That was a good one. I read that last night. That was actually a pretty good one. It's about how the seasons are actual monsters. And so when they come in, they don't like, it's not just a coming in like, slow, nice, pretty leaves, like a spring hits. It's like a monster and people have to leave their community. It's a crazy little book there. And each there's 4 issues each season. Each issue has to do with one season. But the big one, Paul, of this week is World Tree from James Tiny in the 4th over there.
Just got an email about that.
What?
They got delayed.
What?
Yep. It got delayed. Yep.
Okay.
It got delayed. I know. Super
Look,
excited. But we got TMNT Usagi Yojimbo
yeah.
coming in. Come on. I love Usagi. I'm excited.
So I get delayed a week, I'm guessing.
I gotta go back and look at the email for the release date. Yeah, they had a misprint. On
Okay.
two releases had a misprint, so they're holding the book for
Okay. Right.
until
Look out for
yeah.
World Tree by James Tynion the Fourth because it
Yes.
is going to be amazing.
Thank you Image for that misprint. So we have to delay that one. I know I was super excited for it too because it's James Tynion. How can you not
Yeah.
be?
No, exactly. And then Dark Ride. I mean, there's a bunch of cool ones coming out this week too. Dark Ride number 5.
Oh,
It's hitting
Phantom
this
Road
week.
#2.
Yep. You got
Oh my
Moon Knight's
God.
continuing on. You got Ambassadors is pretty good. That's going on.
4 Star Wars titles this week.
Yeah. One of them is the Ewoks one. I'm excited for that.
Yep. Ewoks #1 dropping.
Yep. So there's some great books. So check those out. Your LCS as well. I'm looking forward to a bunch of stuff coming out. And you know me, I'm looking forward to Void Rivals over at Image.
Yep.
Our boy Robert Kirkman and Lorenzo Di Felici. But yeah, there's a bunch of stuff that's coming out. It's pretty cool. I'm excited about.
Oh, it's crazy. Well, this week here at Galactic Comics, you will find now 59 titles on the shelf. There were supposed to be 60 in World Tree getting delayed, but 59 titles. Plus, we have a stack of new trade paperbacks coming in, which I'm excited for, being a trade guy.
Mm-hmm. Yeah,
so
it's exciting.
Nightmares, Vanish coming out, all kinds of good trades.
And then so check out the stuff because there's the comic book industry now is just like I don't even know. It's hard to keep track of. So if you have questions,
there's so much.
It's just insane.
There's so much, and we support so much of the independent scene. It creates a lot more titles and stuff for us to keep track of. I think is that it's such a big part of what we do here. But the independent scene is so much broader. It's not just like, oh, what is Batman doing? What's Spider-Man doing? What are the X-Men up to? You have all of these other books and things and miniseries and new creators. It's nuts. I think my brain's just been filled up with all that now. There's nothing else up there.
So, I mean, it's exciting. There's a bunch of cool stuff. So you can check us out on our website, capesandtights.com. We have some stuff, advanced reviews of stuff as well. But we're gearing up. I think we're gearing up right now for a month of April and then head right into Star Wars week. We're just going to go full force in Star Wars week this year. And then I'm trying to figure out what obviously Star Wars week makes sense because of May the 4th be with you. It's that week. It's all that stuff. But I'm trying to figure out another time for another week sponsored thing like Guardians of the Galaxy week or like Superman week or Batman week or something where it's like all related to that specific thing. And I'm trying to figure out maybe
2 different DC characters.
Yes.
I didn't know you realized. I didn't know you knew that many DC characters. I'm impressed.
Because yeah. Okay. Well, I guess so we're a couple days past the date of what Batman's birthday is April 7th. Is that Yeah. So
that sounds right.
It's like July 4th week could be Captain America week.
You could do Captain America week. That'd be fun.
Or like Iron Man week.
Some different
supposedly.
Captain America stuff out there. I just finished a little while ago the Ed Brubaker omnibus of Captain America, where you get the return of Bucky, you get the Winter Soldier.
But I'm just thinking of something else. It could be that. It could be
Cap dates back to the 40s, so you got all kinds of material there.
And then the movies. Star Wars. It could be friggin' I don't know. TMNT week could actually be a good one. That'd actually be a really good one. We'll figure that one
That'd
out.
Be good.
TMNT week and I also would love to have it be like October, so like it's not like or like November, so it's not like May. I was just looking at, but Iron Man week would be May. The first week of May would be Star Wars week, and the last week of May would be Iron Man week. That's too much in 1 month. But like if you got TMNT, you can get creators on. Creators on. Yeah. We can talk about the movies. You have the TV shows. You have the comic books. You have action figures.
Do movie reviews. So. Yeah, there's so much stuff for Ninja Turtles. Yeah, your guy that's supposed to write the toy articles might even be able to do a TMNT toy article.
Supposed to. Come on, let's get on that.
Oh my God, I gotta get my coverage back in here so that I have my Monday mornings free because that was usually when I wrote the articles for the toys.
You have,
all of them have gotten done.
What's his name? And now I'm gonna feel like a dingus. Bob and Leslie. Bob said he'd help you with it too. So to reach out to Bob.
Get Bob on here. Well, and I wish I have another friend Alex. I wish he had more spare time because he is a huge toy collector, but I know he's super busy.
If you send me over, Paul, in like points that I can create and craft it into something, but we just need to work on this because I would like TMNT stuff. I mean, Star Wars stuff. We need all kinds of stuff for the website. But yeah, we'll work on that too. And the funny thing is, TMNT #1 hit May of 1984. So again, it's in May. But
and again in May.
It doesn't have to revolve around the actual anniversary or something. Or
it's just
going to
be a Ninja Turtle week. Rather, it doesn't have any particular. We're just doing it for Turtles because Turtles are great.
And so I'll get
when does the Seth Rogen movie come out?
August.
Well, there you go. That's a little better.
I was thinking November sometime or something like that, like somewhere in November, and that way it's also past like big con week, so like we can get
summer,
get Ben's and people like that on to talk about it and stuff like that. So you have some guests that are revolved around it, but not like cons. It's just so hard. I've had so many people where I've been like, "Hey, let's record," and they're like, "Well, I'm gonna be resting that day because I've got this convention," or I asked someone
I've got to travel for one.
Well, summer, I'm like, hell, the 10th or the 17th, and he's like, well, the 17th is the week leading up to New York Comic Con, so I'm probably not going to want to do that one. Can we do this the 10th? And I'm just like, okay. So like, it's a whole thing. Then I found out this morning that Kyle Starks, who was on episode 100 for us, does 24 to 32 conventions a year.
Holy! I was just talking to somebody. I think it was Will. I was talking to Will from Bangor Comic Toy Con. There is one of the vendors that comes to BCTC and we coming to MCTC, and he does some of the other small shows that Will has. But this guy does a show every single weekend of the year. He might have one weekend of the year not on, and I cannot fathom doing that. Like,
and it's the people with the setup too. They're like with a drilling into like this
huge. Like, he comes in and he either has like a giant truck or he has a truck and a trailer, and he's setting up this like 10-foot plus display. And then putting all of the stuff out, all the product out, and then he's wheeling and dealing, and then he's got to pack it all up, and he heads off, and I'm going to be in Connecticut, and I'm going to be in, California, and I'm going to be in. I'm like, I would not. That's exhausting.
It works if you're the person that has a group that walks in, sets it all up for you. Con opens at 10 o'clock in the morning. You walk in there, you stand there, you wheel and deal, you sell shit. And then at the end of the weekend, you go back into your car or go get dinner and someone breaks it all down for you, packs it all up. That's the way it would work because it's basically be on tour with a band. But like, you physically having to do the lugging.
I think Ben did that at the last show I saw. He had like this little bunch of like, I don't want to say groupies, but groupies that were like putting his stuff down for him and everything. And I'm like, that must be nice.
Well, so I said, my dad always said, my dad used to play in rock bands. He's a drummer. He's like, you made it. Not when you're playing big venues or taking a bunch of money. It's when you can walk in there and you sit down at your drum kit, you play a show, you get up from your drum kit and you leave. And you don't have to worry about anything else. That's when you've made it. He goes, I don't care if I had to still live paycheck to paycheck or whatever. If I had ability to just go to a show and play a concert where someone did all of the work for me, all I did was perform, then that's where I know I made it. And he goes, he did that when he did it once where he filled in for someone or some other band needed a drummer. And he basically said, they're like, we'll just come, we'll set everything up. So he came up there, he played, took his check, went home and was done. And he's like, that's when I know I made it. So that's when you know when you made it to a bigger thing, is when you go in there and either your publisher is the one that sets everything up or someone, you hire someone, say, you set everything up, I'm gonna go get dinner and a beer, I'll be back. And then you go up there,
being
the
artist side of it, I'm sure is a lot of work, but they still have considerably less than being one of these vendors
that,
like, oh my god, these things are nuts. So
and I'm guessing with product and stuff like that, product and stuff like that, they must be having to plan where they're going to be and have things mailed and shipped to that next location, some sort of UPS store or something like that.
So
because obviously you're going to run out of product and you're going to have to buy more product or whatever to put on the shelf.
Yeah, you're constantly. Well, and he has, he was saying, I've chatted with him sometimes, and he has like vendors specifically here and there, because he does some international things. So like he has a vendor in Boston that gets, like plushies from Japan. And he goes back and he picks those up, and then he goes off to Connecticut, and then he goes back, picks them up, and comes up to Bangor, and he's all over. But good God, I can't fathom having to do that. Like, I'm already like half dreading a couple weeks from now when we're going to be going down to Portland to set up, and I've got to go get all the fixtures out, and I got to pick the product we're bringing and all of that stuff.
See, what you're looking forward to is next weekend, where you're just going to get in a car, you're going to go, and you're going to be a fan. And that's what's like. So
and wander in.
This comes out on April 12th. So this episode drops. So if you happen to listen to this episode, the 12th, the 13th, or the 14th, or the 15th morning, and you're living in the New England area, Little Giants old school comic show is happening in Concord, New Hampshire. Jim Starlin is the celebrity guest, which is what I always like to tell people now when I talk about the show. I'm like, it's so funny that we are like no celebrities.
We were
I'm
the
like,
celebrity guest at this.
Well, so there's no celebrities. I'm like, well, for us there is.
Yeah, for us there is. Heck yeah.
There's a celebrity guest in that, so it's Jim Starlin along with a ton of other artists, vendors,
bunch of creators,
other people like who are selling comic books, shops, CBCS and CGC, all that stuff will be there at the Everett Arena, I believe, in Concord, New Hampshire, put on by Little Giants Comic Shop in Salem, New Hampshire. And so check that out there. We'll be there, and then we're going to do a episode that we'll release next week, talking about our experience there and how great it probably will be. I'm hoping it will be that the experience of going to a old school comic show, like old school days, where it's just like it's all about the comic book medium as a whole and not the person who acted in a comic book movie and is making more money off of that than the person who created the character in the first place.
Yeah.
Not like exactly. I said, I want to preface this right now. Not that there's anything wrong with comic book conventions and actors doing this stuff. Nothing wrong with that.
Nope.
I just think that sometimes in the past 10 years or so, I mean, I would say since Iron Man came out, it's been focused more on the like New York Comic Con and San Diego Comic Con has way more about the multimedia part of the comic book industry and less about the actual paper. I mean, Star Wars Celebration. I was sorry, Star Wars started as a movie, so I can't really blame them. But in the end, I had to do some Googling to find out what books and comic books were announced at Star Wars Celebration. It was all about the TV shows and the movies. And I'm like, okay, there is other medium in that. So comic book shows like this, it makes me feel so happy that people are going to be there for the creators, and that's what they're going to be.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, when I went to Boston Comic Con, I spent hours in Artist Alley, in minutes in the rest of it for, the rest of my time was spent in vendors digging through books to find stuff I wanted for my personal collection, this and that. And I kind of breezed through the actors and stuff because it's just not my thing. I just don't care. To me, the comic creators, I have a little like nerd fest on. That's my.
And they're more likely, not that they don't, not these actors and actresses and people, celebrities don't, but it's a lot of times I feel like it's more likely that you're going to get a cool story and have a conversation with some of these creators. So you're going to go to a table.
They're more approachable.
Yeah.
And of course, they probably have more time to be approachable, but yeah, agreed. And it's funny because we do our cons here and they're usually driven around actors and this and that. And I had a fun conversation with Kane Hodder because I didn't care who he was.
Yeah.
I said, I'm probably the one person this weekend you're going to chat with that
doesn't care that you're here. Yeah.
I don't care.
Doesn't care what you do. You just want to have a conversation.
I'm just working. And to me, you're just working and you're just like, we're just at this thing. Like, I'm not fanboying up over the fact that you played Jason because I've never even seen them.
And there's nothing wrong with a convention that has celebrities that's their fair for and that's their purpose. And I'm happy that people get to meet these people. I've had an opportunity. I mean, back here is Fievel. I was up.
You get your Fievel sign.
So like that's awesome. And I've been able to meet some great creators at some of these conventions. But it's nice to see that Little Giants, like, you know what, we're gonna go back to the roots. And we're going to talk to the people who created these books in the first place and talk about there's people who have books that are on the market now. Like Alex Cormack has Breath of Shadows. That's literally on sale now. And you have
just last week, number 3 dropped.
And then you have people like Jim Starlin, who actually has a book on sale right now too with Once in Future, but like, or not Once in Future, Order and
Chaos.
Yes, something like that. And then you have Al Milgram and all these other people who have books that have been out since the 70s and the 80s are coming back to sign. This is their retirement, going to small conventions like this and making money there. So it's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to that. That's this weekend, April 15th. And then
hopefully when we record, it's not like one of us with a black eye, another one with a chipped tooth because we fought over the last Scotty Young book we needed in a stack.
I'm going with a budget. There's a budget to go on here too, you know that, right?
I'm right there with you. Yeah.
There's a cap where I'm like, I cannot spend more than this. At least you have I'm gonna charge to the store for now and see if I can sell it kind of excuse. Right. I don't really have that.
Maybe somebody else will buy it, or this is advertising or like art for the wall to show it off. And
I don't want to know what Jeremy's budget is, but we'll figure that out.
Yeah, we're probably gonna lose to Jeremy anyway. Yeah.
Well, that's what we'll do. We'll just say, I can't afford this right now. You buy this and then charge me 10% more later on and I'll buy it.
And I'll get it later. Right.
But no, so it's exciting for that. And then obviously we talked about Main Comic and Toy Cons coming up at the end of the month, April 28th and 29th. and 30th down in Portland, Maine, if you're in the Portland, Maine area. And also in between that's not something we're going to be able to attend, which sucks, but is Wicked Comic-Con, Boston, Wicked Comic-Con. That our buddy, friend of the podcast, friend of the shop, Joseph Schmalke, that's the convention he's also doing. So check that out if you're down there. His book will obviously be out by then, so you can actually get that signed. Sold out at distribution level, 7 Years in Darkness. But if you want a copy of the original #1, reach out to Paul, because Paul has some at his shop, as well as
we've got a few more of our 75 serial numbered 7 Years in Darkness
store variants by the one and only Bob that we talked about earlier, and Joseph Schmalke there we talked about too. So yeah, a bunch of cool stuff coming out, a bunch of cool stuff coming up, and we're looking forward to
Comic Book Day.
And episode 101 is a dream come true. So I will say that right now, and I will not lie about it or hide it. I'm excited to talk to Scotty, but episode 100 coming up here pretty soon too is Kyle Starks, which we're going to talk about I Hate This Place and Where Monsters Lie. Those two great horror books that have been out recently too, which has been amazing to read. I just read I Hate This Place #7 last night, and I wanted to I can't wait to talk to him and be like, screw you, man. That was the biggest, it's like a humongous cliffhanger at the end of that issue. I'm like, it better not get canceled. I tell you that.
Oh God, it's always the worst.
Like the biggest cliffhanger. It was a bigger cliffhanger and end of issue 7 than there was an end of issue 5, the end of the first volume.
Wow.
So like the end of the first volume didn't have as this is a bigger cliffhanger.
That'd be funny if why it must have just been the way the story progressed. That
well, he had to force things into it. It's possible. I listened to a different podcast. Kyle had to move from 15 issues possibly to 10.
Yep.
Skybound was telling him he can only get 10 issues instead of 15, and so he's now taking the third story arc and the second story arc and crushing them into one. So issue 7 does make sense that maybe issues 6 and 7 would have been issues 6 through 10. You know what I mean? So like it could have been the possibility that this issue 7 was the end of volume 2, and that's something I'll find out on episode 100 when I speak to Kyle Stark. So we'll hopefully find that out a little bit later. Let's check.
Pretty cool.
Out. Sweet. I appreciate it, Paul. Again, Paul online, Galactic Comics and Collectibles.com, and Facebook and Instagram, as well as 547 Hammond Street. I've done that before,
Hammond Street.
547 Hammond Street in Bangor, Maine, if you're in the greater Bangor area. He has a wide collection of comic books, toys, collectibles, adult themed. No, just kidding.
Nope.
And if you want, you can sit in his shop and browse the comic books and look across the street and see people dumpster diving. If you really want to do that.
That happened the other day. That was exciting. You never know what is going to happen at Galactic Comics.
Thanks, Paul. Free Comic Book Day, May 6th. I'll be there.
May 6th.
If you want to come meet me, not that you'd want to, but I will be there.
I should make a giant banner of meet the famous capes and tights.
You're guest hosting here. I'm guest working there. Is that how that works?
Yeah, I think so.
Special guest
we'll get you a name tag. Yeah, guest appearance by Justin. I'll tell you what, if you sign one autograph and it's not for Garrett, then I'll be that'll
no, but like I have posters there, right? I do have posters there, so it wouldn't be weird for me to sign something there.
That's true. You could sign the We All Float posters. Yeah.
But yeah, so check that out May 6th at your local comic book shop. But in the greater Bangor area, go to Galactic Comics and Collectibles on Hammond Street, Bangor. Paul, it's always a pleasure.
Thanks, Justin.
It really is. It really is. As much as I hate to say it, it really is a pleasure.
I appreciate that, I guess.